Kṛṣṇa, thus thinking to himself, established Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira in the position of supreme control of the world in order to show the ideal of administration on the path of piety. So here we're given a hint how Krishna is very concerned how everyone should live on this path of piety. So he wanted to establish a ruler who himself embodied that. So let's go to the next verse. Uttarāyam dvita Pūru vamsaha sadva Abhimanyuna savai Droṇi ashtra samplushta punar bhagavata dritaha. So the
Gauda?
Yes, Prabhu.
Your voice came back all of a sudden.
Oh,
I
good.
don't know what you did, but it came back better.
Thank you. Maybe it's on your side, on your computer.
Maybe I should go and mute everybody. How's that?
If you want, I'm just going to go right to the translation.
Okay.
Okay, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The embryo of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttarā, his wife, was burnt by the weapon of the son of Droṇa. But later, he was again protected by the Lord. So purport. The embryonic body of Parikshit, which was in the formation after Uttara's pregnancy by Abhimanyu, the great hero, was burned by the Brahmastra of Ashvatthama. But a second body was given by the Lord within the womb. And thus the descendant of Pūru was saved. This incident is a direct proof that the body and the living entity, the spiritual spark, are different. When the living entity takes shelter in the womb of a woman through the injection of the semen of a man, there is an emulsification of the man's and women's discharges, and thus a body is formed the size of a pea, gradually developing into a complete body. But if the developing embryo is destroyed in some way or other, the living entity has to take shelter in another body or in the womb of another woman. The particular living entity who was selected to be the descendant of Mahārāja Pūru, or the Pandavas, was not an ordinary living entity. And by the superior will of the Lord, he was destined to be the successor to Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira. Therefore, when Asvatthama destroyed the embryo of Mahārāja Parikshit, the Lord, by his own internal potency, entered into the womb of Uttarā by his plenary portion, just to give audience to the would-be Mahārāja Parikshit, who was in great danger. By his appearance within the womb, the Lord encouraged the child and gave him complete protection in a new body by his omnipotency. By his power of omnipresence, he was present both inside and outside of Uttarā and other members of the Pandava family. Om Jnana Tamanandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chaksus Unmilitamyena Tasmai Śrī Gurave Namaha Śrī Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upagadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Jai Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhara Śrīvasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa Tubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So just to repeat the verses. Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, thus thinking to himself, established Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira in the position of supreme control of the world in order to show the ideal of administration on the path of piety. The embryo of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttarā, his wife, was burnt by the weapon of the son of Droṇa. But later he was again protected by the Lord. So here we have a very wonderful pastime, which narrates we see some glimpse of it in the Bhagavad Gita. And these are glorious activities. They're so glorious that we celebrate the advent of the Bhagavad Gita every year. It's celebrated because even though it's supposedly of war and intrigue and so much evil, but it's just showing us how Krishna is there and his devotees are there, and how they have to struggle to bring about this righteousness, this dharma, this truthfulness. So this is a very wonderful pastime which just takes our mind and we get absorbed in it. And it's very nice to just get absorbed in this Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Srimad Bhagavatam, in these transcendental literatures. We should celebrate that. It's been celebrated all throughout time. Histories, we see many great works of art throughout history, and buildings and sculptures, and just depicting the activities of the Mahabharata and the activities of Krishna with his pastimes, even though it may be of war and so many different things, as we saw in this picture here, the war of the great battle of the Kurukshetra war. And you see so many people were slaughtered. It was just incomprehensible, the deaths. So referring to this particular verse and chapter, we see how Krishna his whole plan was to bring about righteousness and eliminate the world of these demoniac kings. They were so demoniac that all they're interested in is this particular life, this particular body, and this enjoyment. But the whole theme behind the Mahabharata is that this world is temporary. It doesn't matter how great of a hero you are, that soon you will have to leave this world. So it was a whole meant to bring about this understanding that what is the use of this greed and lust and try to possessing things of this material world when it's just temporary. But the demoniac don't understand that. They think everything is for my gratification, my sense gratification, and I will do anything to get it, even defy the laws of Dharma. And this is what we find, what happens in this great battle of Kurukshetra. This is referring to the great hero Abhimanyu, who on the 13th day of the battle, Droṇa was in charge of the Kaurava army. And his plan was to somehow or another capture Yudhiṣṭhira and, keep him hostage, and somehow or another maybe make him gamble again and gamble away everything. So anyway, he had some plan like that. And the plan was to get Arjuna and Krishna distracted to another side of the battlefield. This battlefield is huge. It's miles and miles long, probably the size of a state. It was huge. So Arjuna was challenged in another south of the battle, another area of the battle, and they had created this chakra vyuha, which was practically impenetrable, and wherever it goes in its path, it just destroys everything. And it was coming towards the Pandava armies, and it was just creating havoc. And King Yudhiṣṭhira had to make a split-second decision. Sometimes we're forced with decisions we have to make quickly. So he didn't have time to go get Arjuna, who knew how to penetrate this particular chakra vyuha. Because by the time they went and found Arjuna, they would have been demolished. So he had to make a split decision, and he knew that this Abhimanyu, he actually knew the art of how to penetrate the chakra vyuha, but he didn't know how to get out. So with great concern, Yudhiṣṭhira actually requested him that if he would, please penetrate this. And he admitted that I can penetrate this. Do not doubt my valor. And he was a very great warrior. He was the son of Subhadra and Arjuna. Great, powerful warrior, equal to Arjuna. So he was young, so he didn't know how to get out of it. So they said, don't worry, we'll follow directly behind you. the great warriors will follow directly behind you, Bhima and Yudhiṣṭhira, and the great Pandava warriors will follow directly behind him, and then they will create havoc inside. So he said, with that, he goes, okay, let's go. Try to keep up with me. He was very proud and chivalrous warrior. Even though he was requested, he was practically going into a death trap because, without the Pandavas behind him, he could be killed very easily inside of there. One person, against the whole Kaurava army. So he was very enthusiastic, just to honor Yudhiṣṭhira. That was his whole life, was to serve his elders, to uphold Dharma. And they couldn't lose the war because the war was actually, it was Krishna's desire. They didn't want to let Krishna down, so they couldn't lose this war. So, yes, Abhimanyu was very happy to sacrifice himself for Krishna's purpose. And this is what he did. He actually broke through this Chaturvyuha. It was amazing how he did it. And his valor was just amazed the Kauravas even. They were like, just like praising him practically, and Droṇa Duryodhana was completely, angered and, really ticked off because of this, So he said, what are you guys waiting for? Just, kill him. But he killed like practically one Akshauhini, soldiers himself. And it was just amazing what he did. I mean, they couldn't keep up with him, the speed of lightning. He was dead on in his targets, in his bow, how he shot all these enemies. And just an amazing story. The valor that he showed. No one could keep up with him. One-on-one, he could have defeated everybody. And he was about to destroy that whole army. But, he looked back as he was going in and he realized, he caught the glance of Yudhiṣṭhira's eye, and somehow or another, they were stopped from entering this and following him. And this was Jayadratha. He actually was, he's a very demoniac personality, and he one time tried to kidnap Draupadi, and he was caught and shamed and chastised and punished by the Pandavas for doing that. And he was completely wanted to get revenge, so he prayed to Lord Shiva that someone or another, please give me the ability to defeat the 5 Pandavas. And Lord Shiva admitted that you can't defeat them. You can't defeat these people, but one thing I can do is maybe you can fend them off for a day, but not Arjuna and Krishna, because they're none other than Nar and Narayan. You can't defeat them. So anyway, he got this benediction, and this is when he used it to keep the Pandavas out. They were actually trying to trap Yudhiṣṭhira in there, but, Abhimanyu decided to go on the request of King Yudhiṣṭhira, and he went and penetrated this Chakravyuha, and he was creating havoc, and they were like afraid, and he was defeating great warriors. He was sending Droṇa back injured, he was sending Karna back injured, Duryodhana and all these people. It was like, it was amazing. They were so amazed by his valor and his skills and martial arts that it was just amazing. So finally they decided that, we have to put a stop to this. And the only way we're going to get rid of him is that, look at this another image showing how he's just creating havoc and slaughtering people in his path. And, he was the grandson of Lord Indra. They all had mystical weapons, and he was very courageous. He was just a dashing warrior. And he was holding at bay great heroes like Droṇa, Satyama, Karna, Duryodhana, Dusashana, Sakuni, and many of the other great warriors on the Kaurava side. But he went on a rampage, and he completely was, with such ferocity that no one could defeat him on a one-to-one combat. So they were severely injured, and they were afraid. for their lives. So we know that Duryodhana was just incensed by, this boy and what he was doing, that he said that we have to do something. And you guys aren't fighting because you favor him anyway. You're favorable towards him. So they decided that there's only one way to cut him, and that is to give up the rules of Dharma. So despite his valor in killing so many people, they actually broke the laws of Dharma. Even in the Kshatriya war field, they had these laws that, and even in rage, we must never scold the enemies or insult them. And then that they must firmly adhere to these rules that don't interfere with two people when they're fighting. Like if two people are fighting, you don't just like go behind the other guy and kill him, when he's distracted. And that they should not at any time give up the rules of Dharma. But because they were fearful for their lives, they actually broke these rules, and they had 7 Mahārajas attack this boy, Abhimanyu, from all sides. He was undefeatable, but they said if somehow or another you can break his bow, and you can break his shield, kill his horses, and break his chariot, then we'll actually be able to stop him. So that's what they did. They shot his bowstring. They completely destroyed his chariot, killed his chariot driver, killed his horses. But still, he was unwavered. He knew his mission was to serve Krishna, and he was willing to give his life as a servant of Krishna and Krishna's representatives like Yudhiṣṭhira. So even though he didn't have any weapons, he grabbed a wheel and he attacked them, and he was actually creating more havoc just like that. But they were just completely filling his body with arrows at the same time, and still he was killing and smashing horses and killing people on their elephants, and so many different amazing feats he was performing. But yet eventually, because he was getting tired and he was getting weakened by all the arrows draining his blood in his body, finally there was, I think, one last club fight where he actually got severely hit in the head and was knocked out. And then when he came up again, they knocked him again, and then they killed him in that way. So this was cheating. They all attacked one boy. He was 16 years old, but he was such a great warrior, practically equal to Arjuna. And it took 7 Mahārajas to kill him, and to kill him in an unjust way. So this is what happens, that they were so afraid of their lives that they gave up Dharma, and they killed Abhimanyu. So we may ask, well, why, Krishna protected, Mahārāja Parikshit in the body, in the womb, as this verse says, but why didn't he protect Abhimanyu? But Krishna has different plans and different servants. And, there's 2 reasons that in actually dying, he performed greater service than in living. First of all, he went back to Godhead. And now he's glorified forever for sacrificing his life just to serve Krishna, Krishna's mission. That was his mission. And he was willing to give his life in that way. So now throughout history, he's glorified as one of the greatest warriors. So whether we live or die, if we're sincere, then Krishna will protect us. And whatever's best to serve Krishna, whether it's in dying, it seems like there's so many warriors that were actually in dying. That's how they serve Krishna. And we'll discuss that a little more here. But after that, we heard that after that day, people with very heavy hearts, they heard the Kaurava camps after Abhimanyu was killed. They were cheering with great glory, like jackals and wolves, whatever. And then this reached the Pandava camp, and they were just very heavy-hearted. Yudhiṣṭhira was completely devastated. And they were wondering, how are we going to tell this to Arjuna, his father? How are we going to tell this to Subhadra, his mother? What to speak of his wife, Uttarā, who was pregnant at that time. So Arjuna, was told by Yudhiṣṭhira what actually happened and how Jayadratha had got this benediction from Lord Shiva, because they found out because actually Vyasadeva actually appeared to them when they were in such despondency, and Vyasadeva encouraged them that you're warriors. This is what happens in war. You shouldn't let this get you down. This is just natural. He has achieved a spiritual destination, and he's glorified forever. He was a great, great warrior. How he gave his life for the cause of Dharma. So they were, a little bit pacified, but they were just, worried how they're going to present this to Arjuna. But that's when Arjuna vowed. He became very angry, and he lamented. Actually, Arjuna just very much lamented, and he was, sobbing and crying. People may wonder. Even there's some professor that asked Srila Prabhupada, why did Arjuna lament? In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, wasn't he enlightened? First he was, lamenting because he didn't want to kill them, and now he's lamenting because his son died in the army. So I guess Arjuna didn't understand Bhagavad Gita. And Srila Prabhupada tells him explains very nicely that Arjuna's lamentation is natural. It's natural for a father to lament for his son if he dies. It's a natural characteristic of the soul of the the human being, and that you can't take that away from a person. But because Arjuna is considered transcendental, is because of that he did not give up the fight. But even he became more enthusiastic, more determined to defeat these demons on behalf of Krishna. So this is a proof that he's transcendental. Things bad may happen, we may lament, but it's not that because of that we give up our service. And that's Arjuna. That's why he was still transcendental, because he didn't give up his service. He didn't blame Krishna for what happened. Krishna, you're all powerful and knowing. Why didn't you tell me? We could have stopped this, and that. He didn't blame, but he just realized that this, the whole purpose of Krishna's mission. So he continued to fight, and this is how he made a vow, a terrible vow that, by the end of the day, because Jayadratha, he had something to do with this, so therefore I will kill him before the sun sets. And this is, he made this vow. And if I don't kill him, then I'll commit suicide. I'll enter fire because I don't deserve to live. I'll go to the destination where those people who kill their family members go. So he went there. He made that decision that I'll actually do that if I don't kill this Jayadratha. So the day went on, and they decided, the Kaurava camp decided to surround, Jayadratha with, thousands of bodyguards. And Arjuna had to go through all these thousands, and it was getting towards the end of the day. And, Jayadratha was in complete anxiety. He's not going to be happy until the sun sets, and then then it'll be easy for us. Arjuna will have to enter fire. But Krishna, he protects his devotees, in different ways. Some he kills, some he saves. So we can see, depends whatever your service is for Krishna. So, because we know that this body is temporary, whatever whatever we're attained in this life is finished. It's temporary, but whatever we perform spiritually, that's eternal. So Krishna will protect us in different ways. So he protected Arjuna by creating a very mystical scene. It appeared that the sun was setting. Some people say it was like a eclipse, and people thought the sun set, or Krishna did an illusion to make it appear. He hid the sun, and it appeared that the sun was going down. So everybody was, yay, the sun set. Now's our chance, Yay! They're all like waving their turbans, whatever they do, and they're very happy. that now Arjuna has to commit suicide. But then as they all came and put their guard down, Krishna, brought back the original sun, and everybody was confused and what was going on. And then Krishna told Arjuna that now is your chance, just kill him. So he sent this curved-shaped blade and cut off his head. But at the same time, he had a benediction because his father was a mystic, and he heard that his son would die by getting his head cut off. So he said, therefore, that whoever cuts off my son's head, whoever makes it touch the ground, his own head will be cut into 1,000,000 pieces, 1,000 pieces. So Krishna told him to send, so Krishna kept shooting arrows at that head and sent it to his father's lap, who was meditating in a cave. And his father, the head landed on his lap, and out of disgust at this ball of bleeding flesh head, he threw it aside and it hit the ground. And immediately his head was burst into 1,000 pieces. So this is Krishna protecting the devotees. It was just a very gruesome in this battle, but this is nonetheless, this world is a very gruesome place. So we go to the next point here. Prabhupada's talking about Mars Parikshit, who's in the womb, and how Krishna appeared to protect him because, we heard that how Asvatthama became so enraged and angry the way his father Droṇa was killed. He was actually tricked. We can see how Krishna knew, and they all knew, that Droṇa cannot be killed unless he gives up the fight. So they had to weaken him. And he was weakened by the truth, first by Bhima. Bhima approached him. Droṇa was creating havoc. He was killing people left and right, people that had no chance against him. He was just mowing people down indiscriminately, killing people. And Bhima approached him and said, look at you. What kind of Brahman or what kind of righteous person are you? You don't uphold Dharma. Where were you? You didn't do anything when they tried to disrobe Draupadi. You didn't do anything when they tried to burn the Pandavas in the house of Yak. You didn't say anything. Where's your Dharma? And now you're just killing people that have no match against you, and you're just wiping them out. Where's your Dharma? Where's your sense of truthfulness? And he realized that that's the truth. Sometimes the truth hurts more than a weapon. So Bhima knew that, and he told that to Droṇa. And then Krishna had Yudhiṣṭhira he told him to tell him, because he knew his son was very dear to him, and if his son died, he would just be devastated. He'd give up. So Krishna told, someone needs to be put on mute today. There's some noise in the background. Someone's having a battle.
Strange, where everybody should be muted right now.
Yeah.
Where's that coming from? Oh, I'm sorry. I put it... Okay, now we took care of that. Sorry.
Okay, you had your own little battle.
Let me just do one other thing here.
Yeah.
Okay, now you should have no other disturbances.
Okay, thank you, Pūru. Yeah, so this is amazing how Krishna told Yudhiṣṭhira that, tell him that Droṇa's dead. And he goes, but Krishna, Droṇa's not dead. And Yudhiṣṭhira was completely, he was Dharma personified. Never told a lie, his life, what to speak of. They say that he never even thought an immoral thought in his mind, what to speak of lying. So, he hesitated. Krishna, and then at that point, that's when Yudhiṣṭhira's chariot actually touched the ground. He was so righteous that his chariot never even touched the ground. But because he hesitated to tell a lie for Krishna, Krishna is the absolute truth. Whatever Krishna says is the truth, no matter if you think it's a lie or not. So anyway, Krishna knew his mind and told him, so, there's an elephant named Asvatthama, and just say that it's dead. So Bhima went out and killed this elephant. And he's telling everybody, Asvatthama's dead, Asvatthama's dead. And so Droṇa heard that, and so he said, I will only believe if Yudhiṣṭhira tells me. that he's dead. So then Yudhiṣṭhira, he approached Yudhiṣṭhira. Yudhiṣṭhira, if you tell me that my son is dead, then I will believe it. So he said, yes, Asvatthama. And then, he said, the elephant. He said it softly. Some people say he said it softly, is dead, and other people say that Krishna blew a conch shell at the same time when he said Asvatthama, and then Pūru, and it's dead, and then he had said, the elephant, which was covered by either the conch shell or saying it very softly. He says dead. So then Droṇa believed him because he was a man of truthfulness. This is the power of a great personality. They're so truthful that anything they say, they would believe. Anything they did, they would know that this is the truth because he would never lie. So we know nowadays, of course, Krishna is transcendental trickery. And sometimes even Prabhupada said, devotees sometimes, in order to spread Krishna consciousness, they have to do some transcendental trickery. Just like a child has to take medicine, he's going to die, but he won't take medicine. So the parent says, no, this is candy, it's not medicine. Is the parent lying? No, because he's saving the child's life. So in the same way, sometimes we tell people, take this book, it's about yoga, meditation, and somehow, not explaining that so many things that may turn them off, depending on where they're from. So, in that way. But sometimes we can't take it for granted that, we can do transcendental trickery, no matter what, just to get our service done. So amongst devotees, we shouldn't be lying and saying, just to get things done, you have to lie to a devotee. So then, therefore, that destroys our trust and love. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So we'll go on here. So we could see what happened is that he became so enraged by the way they killed his father, because when Droṇa gave up the fight, the person that was benedicted, Drishtadyumna, I think it was, who would kill him because he wanted to get even with him. He was the son of, I forget his enemy when they were childhood. It was the whole thing. Droṇa, was it son of Droṇa? Or, no, somebody else, I can't remember exactly. But anyway, he had his son, it was Drupada, yeah. Drupada, and then he had his daughter, there was Draupadi and Draupadi. And Draupadi was like a weapon, because her beauty she was so amazingly, stunningly beautiful that demons completely became bewildered by her and lost all composure, and they just fell apart. And we saw that so many times. They tried to kidnap her, they tried to disrobe her in so many different ways. Even Duryodhana wanted her, and because he couldn't have her, he hated the Pandavas and he wanted to get revenge. So in this way, she was like a cause of their demise. In the same way, Drishtadyumna, he was empowered to kill. And at this time, when Droṇa was meditating, he just chopped off his head, killed him. So his son, Asvatthama, was so angered by this that he wanted to get even, and he sent this Brahmastra weapon, to kill. I think he sent was he the one that sent the Narayan weapon too? I think it was him, which would have wiped out the entire army. But Krishna knew that there was a way to counteract this Narayan weapon, is just give up the fight, lay down, pay your obeisances, because they could detect if you want to fight and you want to, actually want to be in a fighting mood, and it'll kill you. So he taught everybody in the Pandava camp to just pay your obeisances, lie down, and then the weapon just went by them. Bhima, he had to be more coaxed than the others, but eventually he bowed down, and they were unharmed. But then once they sent that Narayan weapon, though, that was finished. He couldn't use it again. So then he sent another Brahmastra weapon, this time, to kill them, and he was actually aiming it at the last. That's when, of course, he did other things that were so outrageous. He beheaded the 5 Pandava sons. He went into the camp and just started indiscriminately killing people in so many different ways, and then he wanted to kill the last. After they were chasing him, he sent the Brahmastra, and Krishna and Arjuna counteracted to that. And then again, he sent another Brahmastra just to kill the last descendant of the Pandavas, which was Mahārāja Parikshit. But this is where we see Krishna protected him. And it's amazing. He first comes into the world, is killed. Actually his body was killed and Krishna gave him another body. And it seemed like his purpose also, Mahārāja Parikṣit, his service was to be killed. And we see the whole story here of the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam, that yes, he was killed. His service was to die. And he was very glorious for that. And we should be grateful for that too, because of this, we were able to hear the narration of Sukadeva Goswami reciting the pastimes of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So these great personalities, we so much are indebted to them. They have given us truth. And this is what Srila Prabhupada did. Everything Srila Prabhupada did was truthful. Everything was according to Dharma. You see? And this is what we have to do. Srila Prabhupada came with that great compassionate look, compassion for the conditioned souls. He came to help us purify, eliminate all the impurities from the heart. And this is the key to leaving this material world. And then Srila Prabhupada had mentioned, no matter what happens in the future, you should never leave ISKCON. ISKCON is like that boat, is that ship, that once we're on a board, we should stay there. And it's capable of holding unlimited amounts of people. It's like Krishna's transcendental, situation, like where his planet is or his land is, it expands potency where even it's just a little land of Vrindavan, it's like the whole spiritual world is there. So Srila Prabhupada is an unlimited ocean of mercy. The entire universe practically to take advantage of his teachings. And Prabhupada said our movement should be based on love and trust. And how can you trust someone who's not truthful, who's not living according to Dharma? So it behooves us to actually follow, become a hero of faith, of faithfulness of the teachings by those who are truthful, those who are living according to Dharma. So this is what we should become, heroes of faith, in the words of the spiritual master. And we can imagine a society that has purity in mind, has purity in body, purity in speech. Imagine a society. It's like the Vaikuntha men, Vaikuntha ladies. Imagine the potency and how from that potency all conditioned souls will be overcome by their purity. And that's the key to converting the entire world into Krishna consciousness. So we have to be very grateful to the gifts of His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada has his signature there, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He is signed, he is the author of all these books with Krishna. He's actually the spokesmouth for Krishna. He's brought these gifts. We're so fortunate to have so many transcendental literatures to understand what is real Dharma, what is real truth, and to follow that. And this is Krishna. Srila Prabhupada also brings the gifts of the transcendental form of Krishna, Radha Krishna, so that we can serve Him. This is the purpose of our life, is to serve Krishna. Nothing else matters. If we use this temporary, disease-infested body, which is just meant to die, if we use that in the service of Krishna, and that's what all the Vedic literatures show us. This is a temporary place. Prepare. Get out of here. Become pure. Get out of this contaminated place where there is nothing but death. So, and then we can regain our eternal position as servants of Krishna. So this is Srila Prabhupada. He came to give us that. With his transcendental vibration, of his chanting, of his lectures, of his books, writings, and teachings. So we have to become very grateful, and we have to become heroes of faith in this movement. It's like faithful in Prabhupada's words, no matter what happens, never leave ISKCON, never leave his ship, which is going on the right path, back home, back to Godhead. So thank you very much. If there's any comments or questions, we can open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have unmuted everybody.
Great talk, Prabhu. I was just going to add one thing here that from the third canto. I was actually just reading this the other day, and it really fits right in. This is where Vidura was inquiring from Maitreya about the death that often accompanies Krishna when he came to this world. It was kind of concerned why so much death, and how might this be beneficial? So Maitreya really liked the question. He says, "Oh warrior, the inquiry made by you is just befitting a devotee because it concerns the incarnations of the personality of Godhead. He is a source of liberation from the chain of birth and death for all those who are otherwise destined to die." So Prabhupada says in the purport, "The topics of the welfare in which the Lord engages do not concern the war of death, but the war against the chain of Maya, which obliges one to accept repeated birth and death. In other words, one who takes delight in hearing the war topics of the Lord is relieved from the chains of birth and death." So he's speaking here how not just those, I'm going to mention in a minute, how those who died, they're all benefited, but it's saying that we're also benefited. We're also freed from the chain of birth and death simply by hearing these topics. Foolish people are suspicious of Krishna's taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra, not knowing that his taking part ensured liberation for all who were present on the battlefield. It is said by Bhishma Dev that all who were present on the battle of Kurukshetra obtained their original spiritual existences after death. Therefore, hearing the war topics of the Lord is as good as any other devotional service.
That's perfect. Thank you, Prabhu.
So, I mean, that's a very powerful statement, that all who are present on the battlefield obtained their original spiritual position. And we equally benefit just by hearing, not being on the battlefield, but hearing of these great transcendental pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. We also become freed from the cycle of birth and death and attain our original spiritual position.
Yeah, that's a great addition to this. What's the reference on that again?
This is the pregnancies of Diti in the evening, 3:14. This is text number 5.
Cool. That's great. Perfect.
You said all this, by the way. Everything I just said, you said, but I'm just giving a little evidence. I had just read this.
Yeah. Right. There's so much. That's what's so nice about so many different proofs and evidences Krishna has given us to encourage us. Thank you.
Yeah, so we get the same benefit as being on the battlefield by reading about what happened on the battlefield. And just as all those warriors obtain perfection, we attain the same by hearing.
Yeah, because we have to die heroes too, right?
Yeah. And in a sense, we are on the battle of Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could see that from different angles of vision. By hearing about it, it's not just hearing about some historical event, but it is actually, in fact, on many transcendental levels, probably higher than we're this stage capable of understanding, we're also present by hearing it. It becomes manifest in our heart.
Yeah. Right.
Lila Smarnam.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this just kind of got me back into the Mahabharata, and it's so hard to put it down. There's so many nice pastimes of Krishna just bringing this point of dharma and truthfulness and the temporality of this material world, and no matter how much great this place is like, or to speak, heavenly planets, it's all temporary. There's a whole purpose. So, and we have the secret of what the purpose is. So we have that great fortune to know that, and now we should act on it. Right. Any other comments, questions? Guy.
I never heard of the I guess you're a bit of a scholar of the Mahabharata, which I'm not, but this chakra vyuha.
Yeah, that's a powerful formation, which is impenetrable, and it can just really,
I have a story about that.
Well, add to the nectar pot.
Oh, okay. When Arjuna was explaining, he was very excited because he had learned from Droṇa the secret of the chakra vyuha, because it was awarded by Droṇa, and he was explaining it to Subhadra. He was just so excited, but Subhadra fell asleep while he was explaining this. So, because there's such an intimate relationship between the mother and the child, Abhimanyu in the womb, he heard it, but he only heard the first part, how to break into the formation. So when she fell asleep, then Arjuna stopped and didn't explain how to get out. So that's what happened to Krishna. That's why he knew how to break in, but he couldn't break out. Cute, huh? That happened. Krishna's arrangement. Anybody else have anything they want to add?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, this was. I have to say something about Wikipedia. Having read Srila Prabhupada's books, I don't, think it's a bad source to go to. You can correct, in your own mind if there's anything amiss. And a lot of times, even devotees, it's an open source encyclopedia, so even devotees have contributed to that. And a lot of times, questions I Google end up, the best answers end up in Wikipedia. And it's a very nice history of this pastime where Abhimanyu, he only knows how to get in. It's actually, the formation is a circular formation. It's 7-tiered. And only Arjuna and Krishna and Droṇa and knew how to get in and out of this, due to, of course, Droṇa. But this one thing left out was Jayadratha. He tried to kidnap Draupadi. He almost cost him his life, but Draupadi begged that they didn't do that, so they just shaved his head or made a funny haircut out of it. Beam cut his hair. And then he was so angry about that, he practiced austerities, got a boon from Lord Shiva, and he wanted Lord Shiva to give him the boon to defeat the Pandavas. And Lord Shiva said that's not possible. I think partly they're protected by Krishna, but he said they're too powerful. So then Jayadratha settled for the ability to check the advance of the Pandavas for a whole day. And so Shiva gave that to him. And then he warned Jayadratha that Arjuna was an exception to the boon. So Yudhiṣṭhira, he tells Abhimanyu, they see the formation, and really it's meant to capture Yudhiṣṭhira. Droṇa set this up as a trap. But Abhimanyu, he knows how to get in, but he tells him, I don't know how to get out. But then Yudhiṣṭhira says, we'll follow you in, we'll protect you. So Abhimanyu, somehow he manages to break the formation, but Jayadratha uses his boon to stop the Pandavas from following him in, and that's how he got isolated. And anyway, it was unfair. There were 7 Maharatis disarming him, and finally, he's left with no weapons. But he killed three-quarters of an Akshini division. It was very expensive for the Kaurava army. What Abhimanyu was able to do was practically inconceivable. But then Droṇa was one of the final arrows that cut his sword and its holder away, and he ended up picking up a wheel, one of the chariot wheels, actually, and they kept firing arrows at him, and he rushed Asvatam. Asvatam ran away, and then he picked up a mace, and Dushana's son, of course he's probably in a weakened condition at this point because of all the arrows, but Dushan's son is the one that they both hit each other with the maces, and they both fell, and Dushana was able to get up sooner, and he came down on Abhimanyu's head, and then Abhimanyu was able to kill him before he died. Anyway, a lot of that is from Wikipedia, and I don't think it's inaccurate. It's just so, because we've discussed this sort of thing before. Also, I've never seen. This is the first time I saw that Krishna gave Parikshit a new body in the womb. That's interesting. That I thought he shielded Parikshit from the Brahmastra, that he appeared in the womb of Uttarā and shielded. There was still heat, and I know it probably burned the womb of Uttarā, and then she made it so that she could never have any more children. But Parikshit, it said that he got a darshan of the super soul in the womb, and I think there's some description of the mace had some circular motion around the Lord, and he was protecting him in the womb, and that's his name was Parikshit is the examiner, and so he spent his life looking for that person that saved him in the womb. But it is interesting, in this purport said he got a new body.
Yeah. So I somehow lost you all. I mean, I'm not sure when, but my session was terminated, so I came back to just say sorry. I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. That was nice going on to that. Because I just finished responding to one, and then I asked if there's any more questions, and then there was silence, so I realized I wasn't even on.
Huh.
So I don't know when the last time you heard me. I think I was talking to Mahārāja, was mentioning something.
Right.
About the upper Vyuha. But yeah, that's amazing descriptions. But it's, when Abhimanyu was turning the wheel, they said he looked so beautiful. They reminded him of Krishna when he had the wheel attacking him. And just when he was laying down on the ground, he looked so beautiful, like the moon.
Also, one other thing, the eclipse description.
Yeah.
And actually, I see some of the ISKCON devotees in this video, I think. Anyway, there's an astrologer, an Indian astrologer who, because this eclipse happened during the Kurukshetra war, he went to, the history of eclipses dating back, thousands and thousands of years. And there were 2 eclipses, actually, which is a little unusual in this, close together. And I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, it was the time that Krishna went back to Kurukshetra, and the residents of Vrindavan, including Radharani, came to Kurukshetra. Anyway, there were some astrological events that this astrologer used to date the Mahabharata.
Ah.
And it comes out 5,000 years.
Yeah. Oh.
And he uses some astrological events that are recorded in the Vedas. And one of those is the eclipse during the battle.
Oh, yeah? Well, so, Krishna made it happen there.
It's a YouTube video. I saw it years ago. It was interesting.
Yeah, so that would probably have been the 14th day of the battle, huh? When the eclipse happened. It was the next day when Arjuna decided to make that battle.
Arjuna went after Jayadratha. And according to and I mean, this is the Mahabharata, so there are a number of Mahabharatas we know, but I mean, many of us have read Subramanyam's Mahabharata. Now we have Krishna Dharmas, but anyway, there was some description. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, Krishna Dharmas is in the Vedabase, isn't it?
Do you know how long the two eclipses were apart from each other?
I'm not sure. I can find the link. I have it in my emails because I sent it to somebody. I can send you the link.
Okay, because that's when he was there with the residents in Vrindavan, correct? The earlier one?
Perhaps, yeah. Was it before the battle, that one?
I thought so.
I thought it was after.
Well, he was, 125 during the battle, was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Didn't have a walker, but he still looked like 16 years old.
Yeah, I thought it was quite a few years before, like maybe 40 years before or something, but I don't know for sure. That's why I thought it would be nice to learn.
Right. Here's what I was going to mention before. So Arjuna he's so upset the way they killed his son that he understood that Jayadratha he was the one that used the boon that stopped Yudhiṣṭhira and the other Pandavas from protecting his son. So he made a vow to kill Jayadratha before the next sunset. So Jayadratha, he was a coward ultimately, because he was just beside himself that Arjuna, because he Shiva didn't give him a boon to stop Arjuna, and so he went to so Duryodhana said, "Don't worry, you go back to way back into the back of the army. We'll have formations upon formations upon formations, and also Droṇa has this idea to capture Yudhiṣṭhira. Once we do that, it's we got it." So Jayadratha, he went way, this is a huge battlefield, the plains of Kurukshetra. That's why they had it there. And there's millions of warriors. And so they set up all these obstacles for Arjuna, and he had to carve his way through the Kuru Akshini divisions. And he was getting they was getting challenged by this person and that person, and he didn't have time for all those confrontations. He just cut his way through, but it was getting late in the day, and it looked like he wasn't going to make it, and then the eclipse happened. And then so Arjuna was bewildered. Krishna didn't tell him what he was doing or what was going on, and Arjuna, he stopped the chariot and he arranged for a funeral pyre, a fire to be set, so he was going to die. He was going to commit suicide because he had failed in his vow. And then, according to the Wikipedia, Jayadratha, he went mad on hearing about how Arjuna had failed, and he came to where Arjuna was to taunt him. But then the eclipse ends and the sun starts shining again, and Jayadratha's gets his head removed from his body. Anyway.
Right. Thank you.
And it was perfect justice for, what was his father that made the curse? Or was it?
That his head, whoever falls on the ground?
Yeah, that somebody's head will explode if he causes his son's head to hit the ground.
Yeah, he was a mystic, so he knew that found out that his son would die by his head being chopped off.
Oh, he saw that.
So
Okay.
He said that, okay, in that case, then whoever kills him and that head hits the ground, his head will break into
Right.
1,000 pieces or whatever.
Well, it's a funny story where somebody does some severe austerities and wants a weird boon that anybody touches, their head will explode in 1,000 pieces or something.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, that
And
was
then, who is that?
the demon that tried to from Lord Shiva again. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as soon as Shiva gives him the boon, he tries to touch Lord Shiva.
Yeah. And Shiva had to run and took shelter of Krishna.
Yeah, and then who convinced him that you believe that Shiva lies all the time? He didn't give you no boon like that. Touch yourself, see what happens.
That's Krishna.
Krishna did that. Okay. Anyway.
Check it out. That was funny. Yeah. Yeah, what amazing stories. Thank you for the input, Prabhu.
Sure.
So, any other comments, questions, realizations? So, all glories to your hero ship, Krishna consciousness, and glories to the Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai.
Haribol.
Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira. Haribol.
Haribol.